Your parents just gave you your allowance and you need the perfect EDC flashlight. How about the $95 Zebralight SC600 Mark III HI? A $95 flashlight seems reasonable for someone who still gets an allowance or makes YouTube videos. Now, if you believe everything you read on the internet like I do, you'll find people often say Zebralight makes the best EDC flashlights and the Illuminati control everything. And because those opinions are on the internet, they're rock solid. The Zebralight SC600 Mark III HI reviewed in this video is the latest in the SC600 line, and it's apparent that Zebralight doesn't have any interest in making their model numbers any shorter. So what about this new version? Mainly it uses a different emitter, but it's also shorter by a few millimeters than its predecessor, the Mark II, and also a bit lighter. The Mark III HI, the one reviewed in this video, uses a D-domed XHP35 neutral white emitter from Cree. It has an orange peel textured reflector, a tempered glass lens, and is made out of a durable aircraft grade aluminum, which is better than foil grade, as far as I know. HI stands for high intensity. You've heard that a lot in my videos recently, and it's different than the standard XHP35 emitter because it doesn't have a clear protective dome over it, causing the light to throw better than the standard version. Zebralight makes the SC600 Mark III in several versions with different tints and emitters, so check out Zebralight's website because I'm not buying them all. So, what makes Zebralight more expensive than other lights? And why do people on the internet always talk about them? There are a few reasons really. They're efficient, they're well built, they're smaller than their competitors, they have a unique shortcut based UI, and Zebralight pays all those people because it's a giant conspiracy. The UI is customizable with many different brightness levels. Oh, and most importantly, they get you YouTube hits if you make videos about them, hopefully offsetting the cost of purchase through ad revenue you earn from your channel. That's a pro tip. Okay, so how about that user interface, otherwise known as I was a teenage hand model? It has three main output sections, high, mid, and low, and a strobe section to make you mad. High, mid, and low are activated by different button presses, and each of those three have one main level called either H1, M1, or L1, and a secondary level that is programmable to some predetermined levels. To access high, just a short press from off gets you there. To switch between default high or H1 and programmable H2, just double click. Cool. Turn it off. Now to get to mid, double click from off. A rapid double click switches between M1 and M2, just like a double click switch between H1 and H2. Then turn it off. Now to access low, press and hold the switch for 0.6 seconds. Double click to switch between L1 and L2 just like you have on all the other ones. If you'd like to scroll through the modes from low to mid to high at any time, on or off, just press and hold the button. It always starts on low when scrolling through the modes this way. The light has mode memory within each level, so if you were on either the main or secondary, for example H1 or H2, it remembers whatever you accessed last. So if you were on H2, you turn it off, and when you turn it on high again, it'll be on H2. To access strobe rapidly, click 3 times from off. I'm glad it's hard to get to. And double click to scroll through the strobes to find your favorite. You know you have a favorite. The last strobe you use will be remembered when you turn it back on. To check battery level, click rapidly 4 times from off. It'll flash 1 to 4 times depending on the charge level left in the battery. 1 is low battery, 4 is 75% to full. There's also an anomaly that this light has my old SC600 Mark II had. There's a slight fraction of a second delay when you turn the light off. So you press it and then it turns off. Also, when you turn the light off, it isn't a hard cut off. It's more like a quick fade off. Kind of like this. I hope it's not a defect. I don't think it is, but it's the only light I've ever seen do this, so I thought I'd bring it up. Okay, programming is a breeze too. Now I'll leave it up to you to decide if it's a warm or a cold breeze. You're like, dude, is that a fart joke? Turn it on the level you wish to program. All modes are programmed the same once you get to them. So I'm just going to do one. You'll have to access the mode you wish to program like I described in the UI demo. Press rewind if you don't remember. Now programming high, click once, it's on. Now I double click 6 times in a row. Boom, 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 boom. Is that 6? Then I get to programming loop. Once I'm there, when I double click, it scrolls to the available brightness levels you can assign to the secondary level, or if you're in high mode, it would be H2. Now you can't change the default mode. You can't change H1 for each brightness level. Okay, so high gives me 3 output levels I can pick between, from 100-ish lumens to 500-ish lumens as my secondary mode. I want to assign the 100 lumenish mode. So I double click till I get to the lowest of the 3, then press once to assign it and turn it off. Does that sound complicated? Because it's really not. The Zebralight manual makes it much shorter. Now when I access high, I can choose between the 1000-ish lumen default or the much more efficient 100 lumenish mode. Whichever of the two I last used when I turn it off, it will be remembered when I turn it back on. If I ever need to use a 1000-ish lumen mode, I can just double click when I'm in high to access it. Low emitter programmed the same way. High has 3 available modes to assign to it. The secondary, mid has 2, and I think low has 3. Cool, got it. There's also an advanced thermal regulation programming mode, but I'll spare you. Check out Zebralight's website page for this light to see how to do that, because I'm not going to go over it. Okay, how about a few runtimes? Zebralight, because of the amount of lower modes available, can have very long runtimes. Zebralights are known for their efficiency and well-regulated PWM-free brightness modes, and in case I didn't say it, none of these modes use PWM that I can tell, at least through my eyes or my camera. I used a 3400 milliamp hour Panasonic unprotected cell for my tests. Zebralight has a 2.7 low voltage cutoff, so don't worry about your battery being over discharged if you accidentally leave it on or want to get into the lucrative YouTube flashlight review business. I will test 3 modes. First is the 1126 lumen factory default high mode. It begins a big brightness drop over about 15 minutes before it stabilizes. You can see slight brightness fluctuations over the runtime because of its active thermal regulation, or that PID shit. They're hard to see, but they're there. It runs pretty solidly for about 2 hours before stepping down once, then again at about 2 hours and 15 minutes. I ended the test at 3.5-ish hours when light was still coming out. Ending voltage was 2.8 volts. Next up is 580 lumen high mode. Sorry I accidentally started the clock at 1 o'clock. Oops. This mode is thermally regulated too. You can see the step down at a little over 20 minutes. You can see the slight brightness fluctuations throughout the runtime too, as the light thermally regulates itself. So you get a mostly uniform brightness until about 3 hours in before it steps down, then again at about 10 minutes later. This time I let it run until cutoff at about 5 hours and 13 minutes when light stops coming out. Ending voltage was again about 2.7 volts. Now I'll do 139 lumen high mode, which is the lowest mode you can assign to high. You get about 9 hours and 48 minutes of nearly constant brightness before it drops down once, and then again a few minutes later. It runs a little over 17 hours before it cuts off at 2.7 to 2.8 volts. Okay, brightness tests of all the 11, yeah, you heard that right, available modes. Also, I have a confession to make. I use a Zebralight SC600 Mark II to calibrate my lumens measuring device. So basically, I'm going to test a Zebralight against another Zebralight. Okay, so first, low has 4 available settings. The absolute lowest, then a bit brighter. These don't have real names, by the way. Then the third lowest, and then the fourth lowest. Next up is medium grouping. There's only 3 medium levels. First is the lowest of the mediums, then is the second lowest, and then the brightest. Okay, so now we're getting high, because that's the only way to make this enjoyable anymore. First is the lowest assignable high, then is the second lowest assignable high, then one higher, and finally the brightest available setting on the Zebralight. Remember, the 2 highest modes have thermal regulation, so they will fluctuate in brightness depending on the temperature of the light, which you saw in the runtime section. Also, they step down early on in the runtimes. Okay, so now we have the recently revamped beam shot section. I've thought about doing this for a while, but a subscriber request pushed me to do it in this review. I'm always trying to improve, you know. It does make the review longer, but does it make it better? Let me know. I chose a few lights like the Zebralight. Some of the others have D-domed emitters, and some don't. The Zebralight is about the smallest, best throwing light I've tested, even though it has an orange peel reflector, which often cut down on throw. That doesn't mean it's a thrower, it just means it's hard to get close to 20,000 candela in a light this size with a reflector this small. The Armytek Prime uses a TIR optic, and it's about half as bright. It makes the Zebralight more versatile at longer ranges as an outdoor light. The Predator, though, the Armytek Predator, puts out less lumens than the Armytek Prime, but throws better because of the better throwing XPG2 emitter
and the deeper reflector. Remember, a good thrower needs a specific type of emitter and a better or bigger reflector to be more effective. Sometimes bright lights with massive reflectors throw poorly because they have an emitter not suited to throw. The Nitecore throws more, but it's also a larger light and not as pocketable as the Zebralight. The Eagle Eye also is a bigger light with a bigger reflector, but it throws about as well as the Zebralight. Because the Zebralight's emitter throws better, you know. The Kronos X5, well, it kills the Zebralight in throw and is only slightly bigger. It's a pretty nice light. The throw winner is the X6 though. It has a big reflector and a D-domed emitter. The same emitter as the X5, but remember, throw is a combination of emitter and reflector. And then there's the Noctigon Meteor, which is not a throwy light. In fact, the Kronos outthrows it, the X6 of course, by a lot, even though it's only a fraction of the brightness of the Noctigon Meteor. Okay, did any of this help, or did it put you to sleep? Did it make what you're seeing make a little more sense?
Okay, we're going to wrap this monster up. I'm sure there are other Zebralight reviews out there, and you can read those too and get all the things that I missed, because I'm sure someone's going to point them out. There are a few more boring things to note before I stop talking. This video is a great way to put your kid to sleep, by the way. This version of the SC600 Mark III has a color temperature of about 4,500 Kelvin, according to Zebralight. I personally liked it then. It's a neutral. The parasitic standby drain of the light is so low that Zebralight claims the battery self-discharges by itself at a faster rate. I personally have let the light sit for several days to a week, and I've never seen any real drop in battery voltage. You can always lock the light out though by doing a small turn of the tail cap, which I recommend if you're going to be carrying it in a bag or whatever. The switch is recessed though, so it makes it harder to accidentally turn on in your pocket or a bag, unless you're wearing those leather pants you like. It is waterproof to IPX7 standards, and it can be submerged for up to 2 meters for 30 minutes. It doesn't say what kind of fluid, but I'm going to assume it's probably water.
Okay, how about some opinions? Some I'm sure which you won't agree with. For the good of man, I purchased this light at full price, mostly because Zebralight doesn't give out free shit. And secondly, I absolutely needed another flashlight. You know the feeling, right? If I have a few quibbles about the light, they would probably have to do with the user interface. First, it would be the way you access high. I prefer high harder to access than low modes because if you're trying to preserve night vision, it sucks if you blast your retinas in complete darkness with high mode accidentally. I have done this a few times because I didn't hold the button down quite the 0.6 seconds like the manual commands. I don't know, maybe a long press for high or a double click because Zebralight asked me. Okay, no they didn't. Also, if you decide to access the wrong mode immediately after you hit the button, don't try to turn it off too fast because you'll wind up adding a button click and accessing a different mode. Like say medium, I double click, decide immediately I wanted high, and quickly try to turn it off. It registers 3 clicks and boom, I strobe myself hard. Not cool, man. And in case you're wondering, I alternate between this and my Armytek Prime as my EDC lights. Oh, you didn't ask? Well, I actually carry my Prime a little bit more because I don't like people stealing my expensive shit. These are the style lights I prefer because they fit nicely inside an interior jacket pocket. And one big thing to note, the Zebralight needs a specific size of battery to fit. Anything between 65 millimeters and 65.2 millimeters. No protected cells or button top cells I tried fit. I used a Panasonic 3400 milliamp unprotected cell, but you knew that already.
Oh, I forgot. What does the light come with? A nondescript brown box, a small manual, a clip, 2 spare O-rings, and a little circle thing so you can put a lanyard on. Although it doesn't come with a lanyard. I actually like that it ships in its product packaging, the nondescript brown box, because it saves on gaudy packaging you're going to throw away anyway. So everything else about this light is awesome though. It's well built, it can run for a long time, it's small, lightweight, has a great tint, blah blah blah. I like the shortcuts, the mode variety, the ultra low outputs, and all the friends I've gotten since I started carrying it. Okay, that's a lie.
Oh yeah, and that tight clip. It's reversible, so you can put it in your track pants because you didn't feel like getting dressed today, or you can put it in your fedora because you didn't feel like people talking to you today.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. If you think it's long and boring, subscribe anyway because sometimes my videos aren't, but most of the time they are. Comment on the video, hit the thumbs up button, etc. because YouTube told me it was a good idea to ask people who watch my videos to do that. I'm still not convinced though.